I'm sorry to announce that this week's video will also be very long. I will be recording it, like taking my time, and then hopefully editing it to be under an hour, like the last one. I will not subject you to multiple hours long videos about one episode. This is not going to be about one episode, it's going to be about me rewatching the whole season, but I will still cut it to be about an hour because at this point in time, what else can we say really about this show that we haven't said yet? Listen, I did rewatch the whole season because I knew I was missing certain things and I knew there would be like clues hidden in previous episodes and all the shenanigans like that this show put us through. So I did find some things that I want to discuss. However, because last time the video was so long, and again, I don't want to subject you to that, I'm going to include very detailed, hopefully, I will remember to do this, very detailed timestamps, so you guys can just jump around. But basically, it's going to be divided into 3 sections. One section is me making some comments about my rewatch of the whole season, because there are details that I noticed that help me figure this whole thing out. And I have a theory for the whole thing. Okay, you guys, I did develop a theory, maybe 2 major ones, but there's the missing finger, the fact that we still don't know who is walking around without a finger fucks up all of my theories. But part 1 is going to be me like talking about my rewatch of the season. Part 2 is going to be me just rambling, commenting random shit about the first half of episode 9 that has absolutely no plot developments and is just vibes because I am here for it. Every single line out of Teddy's mouth was gold. And I need to talk about it, okay? And then part 3 is going to be the juice, where you want to skip to, which is just analyzing all the new developments and how this could all fit together to figure out that godforsaken night. Let's get into it. I'm already warm. This is... October is such a weird month. I'm going to start by talking about the goddamn rewatch of the whole season. And I did take a lot more notes than the ones I'm going to include in this video because I already went through the document and deleted like majority of it because I was insane when I was taking those notes. But anyway, I'm gonna stop buying these bananas because it looks so green on the outside, but the inside is really mature. One of my first thoughts while rewatching this season is freaking Howard. This was a question posed in the very beginning of the season that I just completely forgot about for the rest of the season because so many shenanigans happened. Okay, Logan Lerman was introduced. Nikcy being flirtatious to Camila is so goddamn attractive. Many things happened. Can you tell that I haven't flirted with anyone for months? Anyway, I completely forgot about this. Howard, the amount of inconsistencies, too, that I will point out about Howard in this season. But Howard, in the very beginning, says to Mabel, you have to watch the security footage of Lester because it proves it was an accident. Proves it? No. And this is never explained. And this is never addressed. Mabel never talks to Howard again to ask him how in the fuck does it prove it was an accident, because it absolutely does not. And I don't trust Howard. And I will talk about the chair, his mother's chair thing later on, because I still don't think that he's saying everything that he knows. And I still don't think that that chair is how he knew how to crack that clue. The finger had the green felt under the fingernails. The same green felt that Nikcy had under his fingernails. You don't get that shit under your fingernails just from resting your hand on it. You kind of have to scratch it for sure to get that much that it's visible, clearly visible under your fingernails. And I think we get the clue of how this happened when we actually see the freaking casino, because on the table there are 2 marks. One of them we saw was the hand that just hit the thing and didn't cut anything. And the other one is a bit further down and clearly has some blood on it. And there are like blood droplets around it. So that's probably where the finger got cut at some point. So it explains why the finger had a little felt underneath it. But why did Nikcy's, my light is having a mood, but why did Nikcy's That's the thing that bothers me to no end, because there's not that much blood in the Velvet Room by the time the trio get there, or Mabel and Charles get there. There's a little bit of drops on the little table, but everywhere else there's not that much blood. But Lester, a lot of blood. Nikcy has dried blood all the way from his nose to his mouth and on his chest. And I mean, if there was a struggle enough for Nikcy to like scratch the felt, and I don't know, for several people to have blood on them, where is that blood in the Velvet Room? And if someone cleaned it right after the struggle, how didn't they fix the table immediately after or at the same time? Also, the envelope of cash, a lot of blood. Kind of looks like there was a lot of blood going around, but then it's just on the goddamn envelope. You know, it kind of feels like Lester went there and was like, yeah, take your envelope. I don't want to work for you anymore. Keep it. And then it was just there, so it got blood when the blood was pouring around from someone else's finger or head or whatever. But where is all the blood in the Velvet Room, and why did they clean that part up but didn't fix the table? I will get to it. I do have a theory about this. Not going to be anything groundbreaking. Probably more of the same of what everyone is saying, because that's the only way to conclude this. And listen, it does look like Lester killed Nikcy, but I'm going to say it right now. I don't think he did. I think that's a misdirect, because just the way that he phrased the whole thing, and I will go over every single word, I don't think he killed Nikcy. I mean, and he had a cleaver in his chest. Look at this. It looks so green on the outside. Why is it so ripe? The ledger. I noticed that Rainey had a ledger already with her when she went to the funeral. It's not like anyone gave it to her, because I was thinking, oh, maybe the mayor gave it to her when they were there, but no, they did not. And actually, she looks surprised to see him, so I don't think she knew how much the mayor knew Lester, which he said he didn't, but he absolutely did. The Velvet Room, the billionaires, hello. But we see that Lester has a ledger when he's talking to Randall. He has it close to his chest. So whether or not Nikcy was the one taking the notes and he was inside his office taking the notes and all that, it's safe to say that at some point it goes back to Lester. Either he collects it from the Velvet Room and he goes there, or he just takes it to be safe after all the shenanigans or something like that. But after that little scene with Randall, we assume that the next part is him running through the courtyard, running away from someone. So, and he doesn't have the ledger then, so he probably put it somewhere safe before he ran out, and that's how it got into Rainey's hands. Either she collected it from the Arconia, or Randall gave it to her or something, maybe the robot, I don't know. But it was with him when he was talking to Randall, and it wasn't with him when he was in the courtyard. Also, during the funeral, do you guys remember that fuck-ass camera that Bash's niece had with her during the funeral? I paid close attention to when she was taking a shot, and the flash came from the normal camera flash, and that little fuck-ass old-looking flash was some kind of technology developed by Bash to do something else. And I think what she was doing with that little fuck-ass, old-ass flash was just scanning the room for the goddamn finger. Because at that point in time, they didn't know that the finger was in a shrimp. Because Lester made sure when he was inside the Velvet Room, Lester made sure that the finger was in the shrimp, and that Randall took the shrimp up to Oliver's apartment at 4 a.m. in the morning. But the finger went with the shrimp up to Oliver's room on the night that everyone died. So at this point in time, during Lester's funeral, the billionaires have no idea where the finger is. But for some reason, the finger is the thing that will decide the bid. So much so that they eventually get someone to steal it, and they use it to play the little game, and Camilla points again at the trio to get it back. But at this point, during Lester's funeral, they don't know where the finger is, because it's in Oliver's apartment. So I think that little thing in the camera that looks like an old flash is actually some equipment to kind of like scan the room for the dead finger to see if it is with Lester. That's my best guess for what the hell that was. In the very first episode, we get the motivations for this action that Nonna took against the trio by stealing the finger. Nikcy basically spent their entire family savings to buy that goddamn mob house, and the business isn't doing well. And from the beginning, Sofia tells Charles, like, figure this shit out, this shit out because my house and my business and my family are in danger because we are broke. Because Nikcy is not a mobster, he is a dreamer, and he bought the goddamn mobster house, spending all of the money from his family. So they are broke. And this makes Nonna's actions kind of make sense because Nonna is not from Sofia's side of the family. Nonna is from Nikcy's side of the family. Nonna is from the dry cleaning business, while Sofia is the actual gangster mobster family. And this kind of, to me, explains a little bit the confusing actions of everyone, because I think, and I will explore this a little bit better later in the video, but I think initially, when all the shenanigans were going on, there was no deal between the mobster family and the billionaires. But at some point, the billionaires needed the finger and the mobsters knew what it was, and a deal was made of some sort. The billionaires needed the finger, needed someone to do the dirty work, and the mobster family, the dry cleaner family, needed money. So I think at some point they made a deal to, that they would get the finger and then they would be handsomely paid for it or whatever, so that they could get the money they need to save their business. So when Sofia goes to the trio in the beginning, like at the end of last season, and when Sofia gives the trio the car that leads them to the dry cleaners, and when Sofia takes Charles out, like all of these actions are kind of in contradiction with one another. Why would she try to hire them? Why would she give them the car that would lead them to the Velvet Room, potentially to Nikcy's office, potentially to the secret entrance that we found out actually exists, potentially to the dry cleaners where the body's at? Why would she give them all of these clues and then at the same time work together with Nonna to distract Charles to get the finger? Kind of gives me this feeling of she has to work with her family to get the finger to the billionaires. She has to do this to get the money back that they need for their business and their house. But at the same time, she doesn't want to do it. She wants like the truth to be out about what happened to her husband or whatever. So she also helps the trio like on the backstage, which is kind of what the mayor is doing as well. The mayor also is working with the billionaires and doing their bidding, but when they're not there, he's helping the trio to figure this shit out. I kind of get the feeling that this is a recurrent pattern with more than one character in the show, that they do the billionaires bidding because they have to, but when they're not looking, they kind of help the trio a little bit, And about the car that Sofia gave the trio, I was also thinking that maybe if by this point they were already collaborating with the billionaires, like get the finger and get paid off and whatever, it doesn't make sense that she would give them the card to find the body, because the body was there to be found by the police to incriminate the Caputo family. So Sofia giving them the card kind of makes me think that even if she is collaborating with the billionaires, it's kind of like because she has to, because she needs to make some money because of the money that Nikcy lost. But in reality, she wants the trio to investigate so that the truth of what happened can be out. I have to eat it. I'm not going to waste it. And another aspect of the first episode that I thought it was important is that they make a point of clearly making Sofia look at this finger, and the way that she identifies that it isn't Nikcy's finger is because Nikcy had hairy ends. Why would they make that a scene in the show and then be so careless with a flashback and using hairless hands? Like this is how the finger is identified as not belonging to Nikcy, because Nikcy had very hairy ends. And I feel like if they put that in the very first episode and then they do a flashback of a hand that is supposed to be Nikcy and then it's just completely hairless, it can't be his hand. Am I completely insane thinking about this? Or like, does it make any sense? Because I had an idea for who the hand could be actually later in one episode, because we see another mobster's hand with a little ring on a little finger, and that hand looks pretty hairless to me. And then we see the footage that Howard says it proves it was an accident and doesn't actually prove anything. And an important part of the footage is, well, the courtyard part is missing, which is fine. But then the footage says that at 4:42 a.m., Lester was kind of running away from the lobby. And I looked at his hands. He only had his phone in his hand. And it doesn't look like he's running towards the courtyard, because I'm assuming the courtyard is like through the entrance door. It looks like he's going inside the Arconia. Keep this in mind. At 4:42, it doesn't look like he has any blood in his hands. He's running away only with his phone in his hand. And then in episode 2, we see flashbacks from Lester running into the courtyard, and he has the phone and the crank on his hands, and he has like bloody hands. We can assume this is after he talks to Randall. Eventually he drops the crank, the shenanigans in the fountain happen, and whatever. And the question I'm going to ask, I've asked many times, why would the person who was there when Lester fell into the fountain not pick up the crank and take it with them? Well, if Lester used it against someone who wasn't the billionaires, Nikcy or another person that potentially was there, and it only has like his fingertips, the other person's blood, and in no way links back to the billionaires, why would they care? Because if Lester really was the one who killed Nikcy, I can see Camilla being the one coming after Lester, like with her little gun that we've already seen. And I mean, it makes sense that even though Lester is holding a weapon, he's running away from someone, if that someone is holding a more powerful weapon, like a gun that Camilla had, which is the only person at this point we've seen actually using a gun. From later footage, we know that Lester was in the courtyard by 4:47. So I'm thinking that maybe it's in these 5 minutes that pass between 42 and 47 that Lester gets the crank, hits someone, talks to Randall, and then runs into the courtyard as someone is coming after him. Another little piece of information that I figured out I completely ignored before is that George had another trainee before Lester. Could this be the extra person that, I mean, imagine George had someone else training there, and then George eventually inducted them into the business, and they preferred the business and moved to the business and left the Arconia. Okay, now it's episode 3, the autopsy, and I have a crazy ass theory, and we are going to go with the idea that Sofia really was having an affair with someone else, and the whole Nikcy has disappeared is just a ploy from her and her lover to get rid of Nikcy, and I'm gonna run a scenario about it, okay? Let's run a scenario. Because we know from the autopsy that Nikcy had blood running down his nose and his mouth. We know that Nikcy was tied up. We know that Nikcy had that little paint-looking substance on his body, and we know that he eventually took a cleaver to the chest. So I was trying to figure out how all of these things could have happened given the behavior that we've seen so far from Nikcy in these little flashbacks and in the moments leading up to the Saturday night where everything happened. And the thing that strikes me is Sofia's behavior and Nikcy's behavior when we meet him in the street with Camilla. Because when we meet him, he's already very disheveled. It looks like he was like in a fight, or he just escaped something, because remember what I've mentioned, he was like looking over his shoulder, he was a little paranoid, and that point was the point where he supposedly told Camilla that he saw Sofia with her lover, and it was pathetic. And what I was thinking is, what if the plot was the following? Sofia and her lover, because Nikcy has had many lovers, from what we've heard from Sofia, I think. Who knows? Who knows who's telling the truth in this season? But Nikcy supposedly has had many lovers. So Sofia could perfectly have fallen in love with someone else. Who knows? Maybe the mayor is what everyone wants, I think. But whoever this man is, Sofia and her lover had a plot to make Nikcy disappear so that Sofia could be with her lover. I don't know. Let's imagine that happened. So they kidnap him, and I don't know what the hell they want to do with him, but they kidnap him, and that's where the rope comes from. It's from him being tied up in this place wherever he was kidnapped with Sofia and her lover. And this is how Nikcy finds out about them, because they confess it to him like a Bond villain or something. And eventually he manages to escape. And this is the moment where we see him in the street with Camilla. And the reason why Sofia declared him disappeared so early is because she was playing this image of, the good wife looking for her disappeared husband. So when Nikcy meets Camilla on the street, Camilla says, "Oh, everyone is looking out for you," because Sofia declared him disappeared. And Nikcy is very disheveled, like very worried, looking over his shoulder, what the hell happened, and already saw that he has been cheating on him. So he's completely ready to partner with Camilla, and they have all the shenanigans. Let's set up a meeting for Saturday, and let's sell the bedroom, whatever. If I had to guess who this lover is, honestly, I would go for the real estate mobster that we see selling Lorraine's house a few episodes later, but it could be anyone. But remember, Nikky is not from the mob. Sofia is from the mob. So Nikky, of course, uses Camila as protection because Camila is a billionaire, the new mob, and no one can touch him if she is on his side. So he's ready to sell the Velvet Room. He sets up the meeting for Saturday, and it kind of makes sense that Camila goes to the trio to ask them to investigate, to look for her husband, because if she really kidnapped him, she would be very worried about where he is, and what kind of deals he's making. And it kind of makes sense that it wouldn't be safe for her to do it alone if Nikky is with Camila and Camila is protecting him because the new mob. Maybe the reason that Sofia was so put together the whole time before they went to her house is because by the time they went to her house, it was a few days after Saturday night, the night that Nikky died, Lester died, and potentially someone lost a finger. Maybe the person who lost a finger and potentially was also hit with Lester's crank was Sofia's lover. And that could be why she was so disheveled then, because when Nikky died, it was like, it's Nikky. But when her lover died, it was the person she actually loved. I don't think this makes complete sense. I think there are holes in the Camila lover tied up Nikky theory. But one of the things that throws me off the most about the autopsy and whatever happened is when the hell was Nikky tied up? Was it by the billionaires? Does it make that much sense? Because only Camila is interested in the Velvet Room. Bash and Jay are not at all. And being tied up, like the billionaires don't need to tie anyone up. Their power is in like how much power they wield is like in their money and their influence. It's the mobs, like the mobs and the mobsters who use physical violence as like, to make people afraid. So I don't think the billionaires would tie Nikky up, but the mob would. But it's so sweet. They have to be adding something to these bananas. They're so sweet. In episode 4, Althea lets slip, like very casually, that her publicist is an assassin. Surely that won't come back. Honestly, Althea is another person that feels like is in bed with the billionaires because she's the one who invites Mabel and Williams and Loretta and Rainey to the girls' night where Camila tells Loretta the whole story. But we know that Camila knows Loretta, if not from the fire, from the goddamn picture at Oliver's house. So I kind of have this goddamn feeling that there's a bunch of people just playing into the billionaires' game because that's what they like. Money is a game to them and they like to win. I feel like there's a bunch of people who made deals with the billionaires. Althea made a deal to be popular. The mayor made a deal to be elected mayor. And the Cacciamillo family made a deal, well, to sell the finger and get their money back from Nikky bankrupting them. I feel like there's a bunch of people who are working for the billionaires and playing into their game and using the trio to play into their game because they need to distract the trio somehow so the trio doesn't get to the fucking truth. And at the same time, these people that are playing into the billionaires' games because the billionaires own them are also secretly trying to help the trio. And if that turns out to be true, that will be so goddamn fun because ain't that the world? Ain't that the world? And another thing that I realized while rewatching episode 4 that you need to know is that the only reason why I think Jay is innocent is because he's played by Logan Lerman, and I think Logan Lerman is cute. This is a terrible way to conduct an investigation. But, well, those are all the clues I have on Jay. In episode 5, we talk about cleaning up after the billionaires. And truthfully, we never really talk to the staff of the billionaires at all. And this is the problem I have with the cleanup of the Velvet Room. If there was a scene, a murder scene, there would have been a lot of blood. There would have been a lot of shit to clean up. And it confuses me why they would clean all of this up the night that this happened and then leave the reparation for later. Because the repairs on the table only happened after the billionaires were there 1 week later. So we can assume that Camila sent in her team to repair the thing. But why wasn't it done a week before when everything happened and everything else, supposedly, if a person died there, where everything else was cleaned? Because Lester had a lot of blood on him. Nikcy had a lot of blood on his face. Where was that blood in the velvet room? Someone cleaned it the night that everything happened, but they didn't prepare everything. It makes me believe that there were two factions of people, that the billionaires truly were at the velvet room and didn't stay clean. Camilla didn't call her cleanup crew to the velvet room immediately. Maybe they did leave after all the violence started. I don't know. But it feels like there's two different crews. One is a lot more rushed and less organized, which would be the mobster, and one is Camilla's cleaning crew that did the repairs on the table, but didn't take the body out. I kind of feel like the body, Nikcy's body, if he was killed in the velvet room and whoever else might have been killed there that night, was taken out by the goddamn mobsters. I mean, we see drops of blood, so it had to have been taken out through the secret entrance to the dry cleaners. And would the billionaires really do that without anyone from the Cachamelios figuring it out? I feel like it could have been there could have been some separation, where the billionaires found themselves amidst some other bullshit happening with the Cachamelios. As soon as the violence happened, they decided to bolt. And then they returned 1 week later to see what was going to happen at the room. And then eventually they repaired, but they saw that there was, evidence there. But then the main scene, the main conflict and the main struggle was within the mobsters and all those families and whatever, and they were the ones who took the bodies out and initially cleaned up the place. Why potentially it's not well cleaned and there was the shrimp tail and whatever, because if it had been Camilla's crew from the beginning, that tail wouldn't have been there. And if these things were done separately, it kind of makes sense that they weren't initially in collaboration, the mobsters and the billionaires. And then eventually, because they realized that they were too intertwined, they started collaborating and the billionaires started, pulling their strings and manipulating everyone around them. Or it's one of those things where the Cachamelios heard that the billionaires were looking for this finger and they knew where it was, so they were like, I can get it to you for a price. One of those things. I don't know how the world in this world works, but this is bottom line of what I feel happened. Initially, things were separate businesses and then eventually they started collaborating. Also, the day after, Sofia distracts Charles and Nonna finds the finger and sells them to the billionaires. The account of Tommy the Knife was closed. Couldn't it have been the way they paid for it? The billionaires made a payment to Tommy the Knife? No. Tommy the Tongue? To Tommy the Tongue. And then after the payment was done, Sofia closed the account, gave Rainey her part for Lester's involvement, and that was it. And if you think about it, at the date, there was Sofia, her kids, Mayor, Bash's niece. It could have been a joint mission to make sure that Charles would stay out of the apartment. And another thing, Lester the robot still has Lester the person's paperwork. Everything that Lester had, every little bit of information is inside the robot. And I don't think we've seen any of it. I mean, we've seen the footage and we saw the receipts from the trash, but how much information did we really get from Lester the robot? And I will talk about this in episode 9 because I noticed something that I don't think it is what everyone thinks it is about Lester the robot. I think he has all the information we need inside of him from old Lester's notes. I think everything is already there, and I think the robot is going to be a major player in deciphering this whole shit out in the final episode, because we know from episode 9 that he knew Randall was there the whole time, and he just didn't say it. So there's something that happens in episode 9 that I kind of feel is going to gear the robot towards the tenants, towards the side of the tenants. Side notes before we move to episode 9. Do you know what the most messed up thing about this whole season is? Is that I find both Jay and Nikcy really cute. I'm right at that age, and it's it's annoying. Because I don't want any of them to be the bad guy. I say about the billionaire and the mobster. He was not a mobster. That's the point. He was a poet. A shitty one. Oh my god, watch me become a conspiracy theorist live. Finally to episode 9. I mean, maybe you are already here because you skipped the whole thing before it, which understandable. But, well, let's get to it. Actually, I'm gonna go get a snack before, but it's gonna be like 2 seconds for you. I am cold again, but this jacket really isn't. It really isn't only murder style. By the way, they all looked so poorly dressed in episode 9. It's kind of unsettling. I'm not used to that. I'm not used to seeing them in tracksuits, in things that don't fit together. Like, I felt it. Wardrobe department, I felt it. Anyway, before we start the rambling, because in the beginning of the episode there's no clues, we hear at the very beginning Lester's recording, like the robot Lester's recording of the complaint about the noise the elevator is making, and very close by, assuming on the same day, the complaint about mud, like on the lobby, and I was thinking, is it mud? Or is it in fact from the little rolling machine? What the fuck am I calling this? The little chair that Nonna uses. Was she there on that day whenever the elevator complaint happened? I think it was episode 3. And what was she doing at the Arconia? Who was she conversing with? Who was she conferring with? Howard? But first, is it understandable that Mabel can't run in those shoes? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Is it somewhat understandable that drama queen Oliver can't run with blisters on his feet? Yes, it is. It is. But Charles can't run because he's not wearing underwear? How massive is your... That was the amount of sexual references that Charles makes in this season is unseemly. Where is his sense of propriety? The way that I try to quote Pirates of the Caribbean and then I can't because I can't make up a British accent kills me every time. Sense of propriety. No, doesn't work. But okay, the Easter eggs are that Howard is like rolling around his mother on that chair, and I will talk about it. This is sending me. One of the reasons why I rewatched the whole goddamn season, to be fucking honest with you. But the other Easter egg is Lester the robot's little eyes everywhere. And you see, it kind of, there's an implication of surveillance, right? That Bash is watching, or Camilla is watching, or whoever the fuck it is watching. However, I might have a different take on this. I have to say, though, that they have done such a great job with the plot this season because honestly, like, I have theories. I think I may know what have happened, but it's hard. Like, the revelation is going to be in episode 10, and I have no doubt it's going to be like to the very end of episode 10, and it's just fun. Like, I'm here making my little theories and, you know, spending your time and spending too much time on little details that probably won't matter. But I'm genuinely pumped to see the season finale because even though I may think what might have happened, it's one of those seasons where I was like, ooh. And, you know, it's just fun. They did a good job. I hope there's a season 6. And honestly, I hope there is another season every year after that. Until one of the old people dies. Oh my god. If Meryl Streep, like, I'm dreading the day that Meryl Streep passes away because this is one of the rich people that I'm partial to them, even though they are very filthy rich. I have a big problem with rich people, okay? I'm one of those people that thinks that if you have power like that because money is power, you also have a responsibility to use it for the good of society, maybe for the people who aren't as lucky and privileged as you. Just a thought. You know, Spider-Man would relate, just saying. But Meryl Streep is one of those people. Man, I love that woman. From the first time as a kid, I watched Mamma Mia. Yes, from Mamma Mia. Yes. No shame. No shame here. But anyway, what was I saying? I told you there was going to be a section that was just me ranting about random shit because the beginning of this episode was one, really fun, and two, plotless. Also, another detail, like when we go to the dry cleaners and, well, the robot can't walk upstairs, which is a fun little detail, but also the idiot children say, what does one of them say? 49 is famously doesn't come after 52. And then another idiot says, yes, it does. And I just know that this is the showrunners knowing exactly who their audience is and knowing that there are people in the audience who are going to be trying to decipher the hell out of that shit and just putting it in there like, spend some time on this. Boo. Please let me hear theory videos about the 52-49 thing. I just know. Also, another thing, I still don't understand how Camila can evict everyone after she controls like 51% of the building. Because it's like, it's a building. Do buildings work like companies? I'm so away from the landlord business that I don't know that buildings work as companies. Like, do you have the authority to evict everyone in the building just because you own 51% of the apartments in the building? The building functions like a company. It's a bit weird. And of course, we have to talk about Nathan Lane. I think that's his name. If it isn't, well, it is now. Because every single line out of Teddy's mouth was so goddamn funny. And I mean, him talking about prison is very much like Michael Scott talking about the Dementors. Horrible experience at prison they both had. Oh, another thing. Oh my god. I was wrecking my brain about this because we see Vince in the lobby, like waiting for someone to come by his little bicycle. And I was thinking, how in the fuck are the Westies going to deal with this? Because they've been paying peanuts for their rent for years. Like, how are they going to find a place? And who the fuck is going to sell those apartments? Because Dudanov is the owner of the apartment still to this day. So who is going to sign the contract to sell the apartment? They just send the contracts on their mail and a random person signs them and like no one has to verify that the real person signed the documents. Another random note is that I watch so little, like such a small amount, zero, of sports events that I have no idea what that joke was. What did he say? The checkup, the kickoff. They was talking about something about the kickoff, and I had the feeling that there was a joke. And I had a feeling that the joke was that neither of them knew enough about the sports to know that the kickoff wasn't in any of those sports. But I don't know anything about sports. I watch zero sports, so I couldn't get the joke. Kill me. Don't. Because you know what the problem is that the biggest sport in Portugal is football, and I fucking hate football. Oh, and another thing, because in this episode, Williams gets a text and is like, oh, official police business, I gotta go, gotta leave. And I was thinking, what the fuck happened to Nikki's body? Because it is with the police. Like, don't we get a report? I mean, at this point, we can assume like at least a month has passed. Is there no report saying what the cause of death was? If it was a crank to the head or a cleaver to the chest? Like, what was the white paint in it? What, like the ropes? How long was he for? Like, nothing? It's been a month that the body is with the police and there's nothing? There's no police report about what the fuck happened to him. Where is that information? Does it take more than a month to get it? And then Detective Williams and me will find the secret passageway and the thing that Randall used to fake his departure to Cuba. And the entrance to the dry cleaners, the little white stuff, the blood spots, and everything indicates that the body was taken through there and that the white spots on Nikki's clothes are also on the floor. I feel like it could be something that dripped from the dry cleaners or something like that. Like a product of some sort, but who knows? We'll figure it out in the last episode, I guess. But my questions about all of the blood that would have been left behind remain. My questions about who was truly in the room remain. My question if Lester truly was the one who hit Nikki remains. And I was thinking about the hand that we see like swinging the cleaver, and I feel like it could have been the hand of the real estate mobster. Because it's just bothering me beyond belief that they made a point of identifying the finger as not belonging to Nikcy through the hairless finger, and then they show a flashback of someone swinging a cleaver and it's a hairless hand, and we're meant to believe it belongs to Nikcy when the whole hairless finger happened before. So I think that hand could belong to the real estate mobster because we saw his hand and it's a hairless hand. The amount of times I'm saying hairless hand in this video and in my review for this season. And I was thinking, what if this is where all the conflict started? Like when Sofia went to see the trio to ask them to investigate, she went to the velvet room, brought her lapdog with her, the real estate mobster, and he was the one who swung the cleaver like, let's stop this bullshit, no one is in the velvet room. But then why would Camilla say the fucking doorman? And like I've said before, I feel like the whole business had to have both the billionaires and the Cachamelios involved, because even if Nikcy was taken out through the dry cleaners, put somewhere in a freezer in the Bash estate, and then brought back to the cleaners, I mean, the store was closed, but the door was open. We kind of have to assume that the Cachamelios knew about what was going on to be able to, for the billionaires to be able to put the body there. But the thing that bothers me is, why would Nonna sell the finger to the billionaires? Why would she want to have anything to do with the billionaires if the billionaires were responsible for killing Nikcy? And why would Sofia want to have anything to do with Rainey if Lester truly was the one who killed Nikcy? It kind of feels like Nikcy's death might have potentially been a little bit accidental. Like it was no one's fault. Everyone was kind of involved. There was a big conflict, disturbance or whatever, and or something like that. And the way they present this episode with Lester telling Randall, mobster, I didn't mean to hurt anyone and whatever, it's so goddamn ambiguous. And I mean, we want to immediately assume that the mobster is talking about is Nikcy, but that has been the whole goddamn season. I mean, when we got the footage of Randall picking up the crank, immediately we all knew that he hadn't killed Lester. It was just the way that the show makes these things to make the trio follow clues that then lead to nothing, or like to red herrings or a plot twist or whatever. I feel like if they truly wanted Lester to be the one to have killed Nikcy, Lester would have said it. He wouldn't have said mobster, because mobster could be anyone. And remember, Nikcy is a goddamn poet, not a mobster. He's a fake mobster. The velvet room belongs to Sofia. Or even if it belongs to Nikcy now, it was from Sofia's mobster family, not Nikcy's. Nikcy is not a mobster. He's a fake. He's a poet. But then Randall, how the fuck does he not know who pushed Lester? I mean, supposedly he was taking the shrimp. This is so sus to me, because he took the shrimp to Oliver's apartment at 5 a.m. on the night that he and Lorraine were bonking their wedding night. Like he knocked on the door. Hey boo! Like, sorry to interrupt you, but here's your shrimp at 5 a.m. I don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. It's suspicious. I don't think Randall, did it. I don't think Randall is that involved. But is he? Is he? Because you took the shrimp to Oliver at 5 a.m.? And did you leave it at the door? Lester said, "It's not my blood. I didn't mean to hurt anybody. I couldn't let that mobster take down my building. I've been looking the other way too long. It's not my blood checks. It's the blood of whoever he hit. And I mean, a lot of blood. A lot of it. That's probably where the blood from the envelope came from. And then he put it there somewhere. I mean, a lot of blood. Man, Nikcy had blood running down his nose and his mouth and had a cleaver. But did the trio even notice if there was any wound on the head? I don't think so. I don't think it was Nikcy. I think it was someone else. Maybe Sofia's lover, maybe Sofia's part of the mobster family or something like that. It was someone else. I didn't mean to hurt anybody. He didn't say kill. And then Randall says, Lester, did you kill somebody? And Lester just says, don't say a word for your safety. I don't think he did anything. I think he hit someone. Maybe he hit Nikcy and made him bleed. Maybe he hit someone else, like another person from Sophia's master family or something, but I don't think he would have killed Nikky, especially now with a goddamn cleaver. He was definitely the one who put the the finger in the shrimp, but I mean, I couldn't let that mobster take down my building. It points to Nikky, it really does. But well, I guess I'll find out in a few days. Whatever Lester didn't do it on purpose. He did it reacting to something else, like to whatever commotion was happening in the Velvet Room. So even though I can't explain it, I think there is another person. This person is missing a finger and has a head wound somewhere. Maybe they are dead. Maybe they were like on top of the elevator and that's what made the noise. I don't know. I don't know. But I feel like that there has to be another person missing a finger and with a goddamn hole on their head. And then we see the robot spying on everyone, which could mean that Bash and Camilla are spying on everyone and know like what everyone is up to. But to be honest, I have a different idea about this because if you truly watch those scenes, there is no information there. The only thing that they can that robot Lester can provide to Bash or Camilla is that Jay is trying to get Mabel on a yacht. That's the only thing. And that Charles signed the doorknob. I feel like those moments mean something else. I think it's the robot, because remember earlier in the episode when Howard says, I used to grease those wheels? And the robot replies, my wheels used to be greased. I feel like they're going to explore the idea that the robot has some sentient capacity and he's actually developing an affection for the building. Like the building is so charming. It's even charming a robot, you know? And because the moments that he watches is Mabel kind of choosing to stay with her people, choosing to stay with the people who are trying to save the building, you know, choosing the right side of the cause. And then he sees the moment between Charles and Oliver where they are, you know, readying themselves to part ways, you know, celebrating the moments in the past and embracing the future and like going down in the blaze of glory or whatever. Like these moments are heartwarming and if anything are telling the robot that the people he should align with are the tenants. And I mean, earlier in the episode, there is a comment about how easy it is to buy the robot's loyalty because he just changed from Howard to someone else in Camilla's staff. So I feel like there's going to be a moment in episode 10 where the robot is going to be like, yeah, no, I like the tenants. Let me give you all the information I have. And this is how they crack the case. I could be a boat bitch. Listen, Mabel, we've all said cringy things in horny moments. We all forgive you. We understand you. We relate to you. You are forgiven. Go back to saving the building. And then we get the ink part. And I am... two things. Number one, Howard, we never see that bang-ass chair. I watched the goddamn season. I rewatched the season. I watched the second episode where we see Howard's mom, and Howard is always pushing her. She's always in those normal chairs. We never see his mom wearing that fuck-ass chair. Howard, where do you make your money, Howard? If you spend so much money on a chair for your mom, where do you make your money, Howard? I don't trust him. I don't trust him. I don't trust him. We never see the mother with a goddamn chair. Maybe I'm blind. This is what I'm assuming at this point, that I'm completely blind. Because genuinely, we see 2 or 3 flashbacks of his mother and she's always using a normal wheelchair. I feel like Howard is in cahoots with Nonna. And that's how he knew it was her. Maybe Howard is being paid by the billionaires. Maybe that's how he makes all of his money to pay for the apartment at the Arconia. In case you don't know, because you haven't gone as in deep as I have, Howard is a librarian. He's an assistant to a head of department at the New York Public Library. I think it's a fictional library that doesn't actually exist in real life. He does not make that much money. I checked. And the apartments at the Arconia, if you like compare to the real building that inspires the Arconia, which is the Bell Rod, Bell North, whatever, he wouldn't have enough money as an assistant at the library. He wouldn't have that much money to pay for the goddamn to rent. So yeah, I didn't like that there was no bank ass chair in the flashbacks. I didn't like that Howard presented this information from having personal experience. I feel like he knew this information from something else. Did Nonna come to visit Howard in the day where we hear about the mud on the building, on the lobby? But anyway, we find out who stole the finger, and as I've said before, one of those boys was wearing a birthday hat, so we can assume, because when Sophia and Charles go on their date, it's one of the boys' birthdays, and the finger is stolen at 2:22, 2:24. It's 2 a.m. around that time. And this is the time when Charles is eating Sophia's face in her minivan. And we can assume that after the restaurant, they go home and they celebrate his birthday, and he has a little birthday hat. So that night, them together with Nonna went to Charles' apartment to steal the finger, and then the billionaires erased the footage because the billionaires bought the finger, and all that makes sense. At this point, I think that whoever lost the finger was the person that Lester hit with the crank, and it wasn't Nikky. I have no fucking idea how Nikky died. Lester was clearly pushed. I mean, it could have been Nikky, because it makes sense that if Nikky killed Lester, then Camilla would have come after Lester and pushed him in the fountain or something. But I definitely think there is another person that is still going to be presented, or we have already met and haven't figured it out. The thing that is going to make me the most annoyed is if whoever lost a finger is using a prosthetic and we couldn't have guessed it. I will be pissed. I will be pissed because I've been spending so much time looking at people's hands. But anyway, like, if it wasn't for the finger, I would have no problem saying that Lester killed Nikky, Camilla or Sophia came after Lester and pushed him in the fountain or something. But the fucking finger. And also, Lester's crank does not line up with Nikki's, cleaver on his chest. I feel like if we had a report from the police, everything would be cleared up. Like, maybe he has the cleaver, but it was put there afterwards to make it look like it was the Caputo crime family. What if it really was the Caputo crime family? Anyway, but really he was killed with a crank to head. I mean, how hard would it be to give us the goddamn police report? Bottom line is, this entire video review is kind of useless because my opinion is still the same as last week. It will all come down to the fucking finger. But honestly, I'm just happy to soon watch the finale and to absolutely not have all my questions answered, and to then watch season 6 and still not have all my questions answered. I feel like at this point, I'm going to include this after the outro because none of you need to be bothered by my ramblings, but I feel like at this point, if the show doesn't eventually introduce a supernatural plot where there are vampires and werewolves and time travel, then what is the point, really? If they don't introduce, a subplot about them going to space or going to the new, colony on the moon, there's a new Arconia at the moon colony. And they have to go investigate a murder. I don't know. I feel like, what's the point after that? Okay, no. For real, if you stay this long and are still listening to my ramblings, I'm gonna let you know that I am working on an extra video for Only Murders, and I probably will post it the day after I post this video, or a couple of days after I post this video before the finale, because it's completely unrelated to the plot of season 5. It's not going to help you figure out who did it. It's going to be absolutely zero contribution. It's just kind of an extra, exploring certain interesting details about the show. So yeah, I mean, if I don't post it and I've said that I've posted it, well, welcome to my channel.